So you've got an incident, you've got a group of incidents. First of all, it's your job, it's the line manager's job and your job as an HR team to identify if that can be resolved informally. So can that manager, without HR presence, can that manager go and have a conversation with the individual to resolve that informally? So it may well be somebody has failed to follow a reasonable management instruction. So manager said, can you have such and such targets done by, such and such KPIs done by Monday for this meeting I've got. And that's a management instruction. It's documented, it's been on email, that the employee knows, the manager knows they sent it, and it isn't done. A manager, arguably, that's misconduct, and potential gross misconduct, depending on what it was. I would always suggest that line manager would go and have a conversation with that individual first to say, such and such, why was it not done? Give me the reasons why it wasn't done. Could be something really simple as the network was down on Friday, so I wasn't able to get it to you for Monday, or such and such didn't get back to me with this, so I couldn't do it. You'd always hope that an employee would communicate before it got to that sort of frustration stage, but ultimately I would expect that line manager would try and resolve that issue informally and understand the reasons for that informally first. If either it can't, or the informal conversation doesn't give the manager the information that they need or address the issue that they've got, it can then be taken by a formal process. But if further down the line it was to get to a tribunal and it was found that this could be resolved, you take an action that's unfair or whatever, and it could have been resolved informally, it could be considered that you followed an unfair process. So it's always really important to consider, you know, is it worth trying to resolve that informally first? So let's say no, it can't. It would then move on to an investigation stage, and presumably this is probably coincides with the disciplinary procedures that you've got in your handbooks. But at investigation, you would invite the individual, the initial individual involved in the incident, or individuals involved in the incident, to an investigation to try and understand and try and gain a true picture of what happened. And at that investigation, you would have manager one and an HR representative. Usually the manager would conduct the meeting, and the manager would ask the questions, chair the meeting, and the HR representative would take notes on the meeting, and also perhaps govern some of the questions that, if there's some questions that aren't quite clear, but you'd expect that a manager would understand how to conduct that. From the investigation, or the initial investigation stage, you might find that you want to have further investigations. So you could speak to John, and John might say, well, me, Jack and Joe were doing this, and this is what happened. So you go and speak to Jack and Joe. The idea is that you investigate with anybody that's mentioned within a statement. You investigate to clarify and or confirm the information that you've got to start with. So you investigate with Jack and Joe, and they say, oh no, John wasn't there, he did this, he was there doing that, or whatever. And you've got conflicting information. You then might need to go and re-investigate with some individuals. So always be prepared for things to perhaps take a bit of a twist and a turn, or be a bit longer than perhaps it initially seems. I think the key thing there is, if you feel as though there are further investigations to be done, but perhaps time doesn't permit, I would always suggest to do those second investigations, because you don't want to, ultimately what you're going to start doing then is making a decision on an improper investigation, and not a full and fair and thorough investigation. So always make sure that you have got the full picture and feel as though that the case that you presented with is really clear. You've done your investigations, you've got all the facts, you've gathered the facts, you've asked the questions that you needed to ask.